Hello and welcome to Paraculture Coco, home of the Coco. I have ideas. So, today we're going to talk about a specific internalized aspect of patriarchal male welfare, which is our conditioned reflex to provide benefit of the doubt to men while wielding an attitude of incrimination against women, right? So, here's the deal. Patriarchy produces a state of chronic male welfare through both external structures that irrationally privilege men over women and through conditioning to encourage us to internalize and embody standards of male welfare. So both the external and the internalized standards of welfare are necessary to engineer the experience of innate male superiority for men to consume by some, fantasy birthright. Oh, my boy cat just grabbed my foot. He's like, "You talking smack." All right, knock it off, buddy. All right, so because innate superiority is always a narcissistic fantasy, it's not real, right? Whether you're talking about male supremacy or white supremacy, whatever supremacy, it's always a fantasy. Because it is absolutely bananas to think that some inherited trait like biological sex or skin color would make you innately superior to all people who are different. That's just dumb. It's just dumb, okay? And so to experience the fantasy of innate superiority, you need to engineer norms and structures that are welfare structures, right? They function to artificially elevate the superior and to artificially subjugate the inferior, right? So our conditioned reflex to provide benefit of the doubt to men while wielding an attitude of incrimination against women is a core feature of patriarchal male welfare, an internalized feature, right? And most often, we're doing this very subconsciously because we're exposed to patriarchal dynamics and norms from birth. And we absorb it really deeply. So patriarchal beliefs and standards get inside of us at this core unspoken level. So we absorb it and it becomes this thought beneath the conscious thought. And so these standards filter how we are perceiving and judging the world and others, at this reflexive level. And we have to consciously work to unpack that and deconstruct that from within us to release it, right? You release patriarchy. It's not something you can really directly battle with. Although, I don't know. Look at me. I'm trying to. I don't know. All right. So, what is an attitude of incrimination? An attitude of incrimination means that we perceive, judge, and respond to women from a place of innate suspicion and accusation. What was she wearing? Well, she had a couple of glasses of wine that night, so who's to say she wasn't asking for it? Oh my gosh, she should have picked better. She's the one that decided to hang out at home with those kids. Did that princess think she was entitled to adequate child support after divorce? Get a job, honey. She's the one that decided she still needed that career and she worked instead of raising those babies herself. So what did she expect would happen? Yo, how many D's do you think she took to get promoted that high? Right? You get what I'm saying, right? And so an attitude of incrimination is always viscerally present against scapegoats within a society or dysfunctional family unit, right? Anytime you have a fundamentally emotionally immature and narcissistic dynamic, the culture of male narcissism that patriarchy produces. But anytime you have that, you have to assign scapegoats to project all failure and shame onto. That is necessary for maintaining the fantasy of innate superiority. Oh, you're please never sing again, Coco. And I'm you can't keep me down. This screeching songbird's going to sing all day, every day. All right, but normal processes of reckoning with consequences of choices is absolutely intolerable to a supremacy entitlement, to a supremacy mindset. It undermines the innate, unquestionable authority and supremacy, right? You can't have it. So, have you ever heard the Narcissist Prayer by Dana Craig? It's a short poem, and it goes like this. That didn't happen, and if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, it's not a big deal. And if it is, it's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. Right? That is the vibe. I love that poem. It perfectly gets it all, right? Poetry's wonderful. So, in addition to absorbing the projections of shame and responsibility for narcissistic dynamics, scapegoats are also often the workhorses that labor and produce for the narcissist to consume from. And the attitude of incrimination is important for justifying that exploitation, right? To avoid recognizing it and to dismiss the unfairness of it, right? And so an attitude of incrimination projects an assumption of malice, manipulation, incompetence, or reckless disregard onto the intentions of women to preemptively delegitimize her experiences, her credibility, her value, right? So it's a projection of assumed guilt and fault before any statement can even be made, let alone heard. And the reciprocal phenomena is reflexively affording men with the benefit of the doubt. And this can be understood as an affirmation of patriarchy's culture of male narcissism. So this culture conditions men to expect to receive benefit of the doubt and projections of positive intentions, love, or maturity, where a man has not expressed or demonstrated such dispositions, right? It's like this idea of, if I am not actively and indisputably being bad, you need to be projecting assumptions of goodness onto me. And this reflexive benefit of the doubt often portrays men as like well-meaning, but innocently ignorant and just like kind of helpless, right? So it's like, no, he didn't mean to exploit her labor by refusing to participate in the cooperative labor of creating and maintaining a household and being aware of and tending to the needs of all the members. No. He didn't mean to do any of that. It was her job to communicate better. That's common, right? If you would just communicate better, I would know what chores to do. But if the woman doesn't communicate, I just assume I don't have to do anything as an adult in the house. Like, that attitude is pervasive, and obviously not all men, but and we see both the attitude of incrimination and the benefit of the doubt playing out here. Sure, no one's a mind reader, but women should not have to communicate beyond this is our standard of cleanliness and organization that all of us adults are initiating our participation in. So we can see benefit of the doubt in attitudes of incrimination. They're twinsies. Where you have one, you typically have the other. And they work together to shield men from being accountable for their own care, choices, and initiating their development of basic cooperative life skills. But it goes so much deeper and darker, right? So the Brock Turner case was a really excellent example of this dynamic, okay? So if you're unfamiliar, Brock Turner was a Stanford student, and he was arrested after two individuals found him sexually assaulting an unconscious woman behind a dumpster. Trigger warning for the rest of this, we're talking about it. I'll insert it before too. So Turner fled the scene, but he was tackled and restrained until the authorities came, right? And so Turner fought the case, and he put the woman he assaulted, Chanel Miller, although at the time she went by Jane Doe during the trial, he put her through an invasive trial. And while prosecutors wanted Turner imprisoned for 6 years, the judge ruled that he would serve 6 months and then go on probation. And so there was a lot of media coverage and defense arguments that focused on how Turner was a talented swimmer at a top-tier college. And everything was like implying that he should be shielded from the consequences of his decision to violate an unconscious woman because of his potential. And, in his defense, Turner actually ended up perjuring himself because he lied to the court. He claimed that he never partied before college, and the whole defense was, it's alcohol's fault. It was alcohol's fault that happened. And trying to imply it was such an aberration, right? So take a look at this clip.
Here's ABC's Matt Gutman with an ABC News exclusive.
The public outcry still soaring tonight over a 6-month sentence slapped on former Stanford University freshman Brock Turner for sexually assaulting a 22-year-old woman while she lay unconscious next to a dumpster outside this frat house last year.
The judge is basically saying, it doesn't matter what your past actions were, just don't do it again.
I don't think 6 months was nearly enough.
We were absolutely outraged.
The victim was disappointed. I was disappointed. I know my office was completely disappointed in that sentence.
In his letter to the same judge at sentencing, her 20-year-old assailant told the judge, "Coming from a small town in Ohio, I never really experienced celebrating or partying that involved alcohol." Documents also say that Turner denied ever using any illicit substance. Prosecutors didn't buy his clean living story. Documents and pictures obtained by ABC News show a very different portrait of the former Olympic hopeful, alleging that he was engaging in excessive drinking and using drugs, according to prosecutors who combed through his phone. Here, Turner is seen with what appears to be a hash pipe before college, say prosecutors, who collated dozens of text messages in which they say he talks about buying or using drugs, including harder drugs. Want to see if we can get acid? The documents also show that Turner was, according to prosecutors, similarly aggressive with another female at a different fraternity party at the same location. Weighing all of this was Judge Aaron Persky, a Stanford alum and former lacrosse captain at the school, who handed down a 6-month sentence. Turner is currently slated to be released from jail after only 3 months for good behavior. Before sentencing, Brock's father complained that the verdict was a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action.
Dad said, it's 20 minutes for a lifetime of sentence. And I'm like, what do you think the woman had to deal with?
He's now claiming his words were misinterpreted. But any association with Brock Turner has become radioactive. In a letter to the judge, Turner's friend, Leslie Rasmussen, the drummer for the band Good English, lamented that the assault may have been a big misunderstanding. The backlash was neck-snapping. Within days, her band's next 4 shows were canceled. In a post to Facebook, she wrote, "I did not acknowledge strongly enough the severity of Brock's crime and the suffering and pain that his victim endured. And for that lack of acknowledgement, I am deeply sorry."
Yeah. But even the judge wasn't persuaded by clear evidence that he perjured himself, right? Lying to the court is not legal. But no, the judge was like, you know what, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. I still believe in your potential, buddy. Because weighing Turner's potential and his future and his reputation was more important, even after he lied, than accountability for the crime he committed. And so I actually want to talk in more detail about the character letters that his father submitted to the court, right? His father, his character letter, went on to say, quote, "What I know as his father is that incarceration is not the appropriate punishment for Brock. He has no prior criminal history and has never been violent to anyone, including his actions on the night of January 17th, 2015, the assault. Brock can do so many things as a contributor to society and is totally committed to educating other college-age students about the dangers of alcohol consumption and sexual promiscuity." All right, so let's unpack that. Turner deserves benefit of the doubt and to be shielded from experiencing consequences for his choice to sexually assault an unconscious woman because he has never been held accountable for a crime before. And apparently, assaulting a woman is not a violent crime. And I say a woman because, of course, if Turner had been sexually assaulted by another man, he would absolutely consider that to be a violent crime. Drives me bananas. So Turner's father goes on to argue that it would be a crime to punish him for his choices because of this potential to contribute. And his contributions will be educating others that binge drinking is the issue, not male choices, binge drinking. So, all right, let me get this straight. When a woman is sexually assaulted while drunk, our conditioned attitude of incrimination says it's her fault. She drank, she invited that assault. When a man sexually assaults while drunk, our conditioned benefit of the doubt excuses his sexual violence by blaming the alcohol. Wasn't his fault, it was the alcohol. Yeah, I know, you're like, please never sing again. And I'm like, I gotta try and keep the vibes high while we talk about this dark stuff. I don't know what to say about it. All right, so benefit of the doubt can be manipulated into a welfare tool for men to avoid experiencing the consequences of their own choices and behaviors. Attitudes of incrimination ensure that women are scapegoated and punished for the consequences of men's choices and behaviors. And we're gonna move on, but I do want you to hear from Chanel Miller in her own words about this.
Dream is to write children's books. I felt no parent is going to want me as a role model. If I'm just the discarded, drunk, half-naked body behind a dumpster.
Yeah. Where we assign benign ignorance to men, we condemn women. All right. So that's a dark example, but it's a true example, right? And this pattern is so pervasive, right? So in the workplace, when a man repeats a woman's idea as his own, and if the woman has the audacity to step up and remind the group, actually, that was my idea. I already put that forth. Well, a common reaction is for everyone to roll their eyes, right? She's being so sensitive and aggressive by asserting her claim to her own idea. And the projection there is she's stepping out of line, she's demanding too much credit, she's seeking too much attention by asserting ownership of her own idea. Shouldn't she just be happy to contribute? Why is she being so masculine and inconvenient by demanding respect and appropriate credit? Simultaneously, common reaction is to placate the man with assurances. We all know you didn't mean to. We all know you didn't mean to personally and professionally benefit from repeating her idea. And this phenomena, this too is attitude of incrimination versus benefit of the doubt situation. And we are conditioned to receive women asserting themselves and the value they contribute as self-serving, inappropriate, icky, demanding, overbearing. And we're conditioned to excuse men when they violate the contributions and existence of others by projecting innocent ignorance onto them, projecting positive, benign intentions. He didn't mean to, he must have had the same idea, he didn't remember, etc., etc. And so it's the projection of intention that comes from this internalized state of male welfare. And listen, this kind of stuff, it can happen with anyone, right? You can accidentally repeat something, absolutely. But it is a very common pattern in the workplace that women experience where men do this. And not all men are doing it accidentally. And even when it happens accidentally, as anyone can, man, woman, or otherwise, the important thing is to listen and be like, I didn't even mean to do that, but I need to be more conscious about this so that I don't cause this kind of harm and demeaningness to others. That's the appropriate response. The problem is when we're like, ugh, this bee trying to say that she deserves credit. Oh, it's so annoying, right? That's the problem. And so men are very accustomed to receiving benefit of the doubt to varying degrees, as a foundational entitlement. So much so that when they don't receive benefit of the doubt and projections of positive intention, some men, not all, but a lot of men perceive that as malicious and discriminatory, okay? And we see this very clearly with current discourse. Too many men feel personally attacked when they are denied benefit of the doubt projections. As women speak out against grape culture, male entitlement, and a myriad of other normalized and dismissed abuses and violations that men commit against women, many men are responding absolutely hysterically. And you know what? Patriarchal women too. Let's be real. There are a lot of patriarchal women that are ride or die for male supremacy. We'll talk about them another day. So losing benefit of the doubt creates barriers to accessing women for pleasure and labor, right? Pleasure and profit. It forces men to invest in demonstrating their character, their intentions, and earning the trust and access to women. And many men claim victimization and male discrimination for that, right? So my last video was about Scott Galloway and, his podcast appearance where he was lamenting how men cannot get on Tinder and easily order a woman to be delivered anymore, and how that's a crisis, right? So go watch that video for the full deep dive. But the implication was, if there's any barriers of access, like men can't just order women on apps, it's discriminatory against men. We have a crisis. And it's insane, right? Because women's number one fear with meeting a strange man from online is getting unalived. Men's number one fear with meeting a strange woman from online, that she's not as pretty as her pictures. Like, things are not equal here. And when we're talking about benefit of the doubt, let's remember, the state of things, right? Men commit 99% of sexual violence. Girls and women experience 91% of that sexual violence. Boys and men are the victims of the remaining 8 to 9%. Rapists are only tried and convicted 2% of the time. 2%. So I don't know why Photo Booth sometimes does that to me. It puts balloons at the most ridiculous points, and I don't know how to make it stop. So I'm sorry. That was not... We're just going to roll with it. All right. So globally, 1 in 3 girls and women at some point in their lives are beaten, sexually assaulted, raped, or otherwise abused by men within their own households. Romantic partners, male family members, close family acquaintances, right? Within the community. And this is true. And yet men feel a birthright entitlement to receive benefit of the doubt from women without first having to prove themselves to be safe and trustworthy and to have integrity and good character and self-control. That's insane. That makes no sense. That is irrational. So our main takeaway here is that a prevailing attitude of incrimination is necessary to blame populations for experiencing the intended victimization and exploitation that the system subjects them to. Projecting an attitude of incrimination against women is designed to inoculate and perpetuate patriarchal entitlements and exploitation. Indoctrinating that attitude of incrimination over and over and over, it's about transforming it into common wisdoms, right? That aren't true, but just common wisdoms. And the purpose of that is to redirect energy and attention away from genuine problem solving and innovation, which would threaten, if not dismantle, the problematic status quo. So projecting disdain and condemnation through an attitude of incrimination both reaffirms and absolves the status quo through myths and nonsense, right? And so that's why it is more critical than ever that we call out patriarchal entitlements as the system of male welfare that it is. We must directly confront every tired trope and projection that male supremacists throw out to justify their demands for welfare and the subjugation of women. So I'm going to wrap it here. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe. I post weekly videos if any of this resonated with you. hang around, right? And I'd love to hear from you all in the comments. I love a good, lively comment section. What are your experiences with benefit of the doubt versus attitudes of incrimination? Do you ever catch yourself expressing these reflexes? Because I still do. Like, I work very heavily on like trying to dismantle this stuff from the inside out. I still struggle with it sometimes. Like when that Blake Lively Baldoni case all came out, right? For my first reaction, and it was an ugly reaction, was like, yeah, I aesthetically don't like her, so I bet it's true. That's an attitude of incrimination I internalized. Because then when I actually went and read stuff, I was like, oh man, I may not like her, but I think there was some workplace harassment absolutely happening. And I had to check myself. And it's a continual process. But have you had any similar moments? I would love to hear about them. I really would. Yeah. But you can catch me on socials. I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Coco Has Ideas. And like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.